Hello. Tonight's story is called The Mice in the Library. Miss Kelvingrove was a very neat and very precise person. She always dressed neatly, she never made much noise, and she always wore her hair in a perfectly tight and round bun. She liked everything in total and absolute order. She kept her egg cups in a special egg cup cupboard. She kept her shoes in a neat line by the door because she would never wear shoes over her perfect carpets. And when she bought candy sweeties, she laid them out in rows and ate one every 15 minutes and 30 seconds. But the thing that Miss Kelvingrove liked to keep in order most were books. Books were her favourite things because the pages were already in perfect order and went from page number 1 to the end in perfect order, and the lines on each page were always straight and every letter was the same size. Books made Miss Kelvingrove feel nice and calm. Miss Kelvingrove was the librarian at Horsmar Lonapole Library. And that meant she had thousands and thousands of books to look after and keep in perfect order. And keep them in perfect order she did. Or thought she did. Until one day, Mr. Bibbin, the newsagent, came in to return 2 books. One about unicorns and the other about unicycles. "Oh, yes, very good books, Miss Kelvingrove," said Mr. Bibbin. "Although I will say they were a bit nibbled." "Nibbled," said Miss Kelvingrove, took the 2 books and inspected them. There, to her horror, she found that the bottom of some of the pages was missing. "Well, I didn't do it," said Mr. Bibbin. And then Lady Devereux came in to return a book about jam. "Very nice book," said Lady Devereux, "very nice, although I will say it was a bit nibbled." Miss Kelvingrove took this book and looked, and there again there were little bite marks. Then Georgie and Sophie came in to return their books about kingdoms in the clouds. I hope we're not in trouble, Miss Kelvingrove, but there seem to be little..." Miss Kelvingrove took the books and opened them. "Bite marks," she said, "bite marks in my books." "But who could be mice, of course," said Georgie. "Mice in my library." That evening, Miss Kelvingrove didn't go home at 5 o'clock like normal. She couldn't relax. She would have to inspect each and every book to see just how many had mouse bites in them, even if it took all night. And as she walked slowly up and down the rows of books in the darkness of the library that evening, 2 little characters scurried around quietly under one of the shelves. 2 mice, Dibbin and his sister Dot. Dibbin and Dot didn't just live in the library because it was safe and cosy. They lived in the library because they loved reading. They liked books about trains, about butterflies, about motorcycles, about knights, about sailors at sea, adventures in the jungle, adventures in the desert, peanut butter. Whatever the book, these 2 mice loved to read it. Now, Dot always read very quietly, but Dibbin was in the practice of taking little bits of the corner of each page and chewing them when he read. "It's a filthy habit," said Dot. And it was a filthy habit, but Dibbin didn't mean it. He loved books too much to damage them on purpose. It's just when he was reading, he forgot about everything else. "Tonight I'm going to find a good book about electrics," said Dibbin. "I like electricity. I like the power in the sparks." "I think electricity's dangerous," said Dot. "Only if you mistreat it," said Dibbin. "Only if you're careless with it, and I'm not careless." Bang! All of a sudden, Dibbin's world went entirely dark. He was trapped inside a box. "Dibbin!" said Dot. Now, Miss Kelvingrove was a very kind lady who would never want to hurt a mouse. The trap that she'd set down one of the corridors in her library wasn't meant to hurt Dibbin. It was just meant to keep him trapped. But Dibbin didn't want to be trapped. "Let me out," he called. Luckily, Dibbin and Dot had read a lot of books. "Hey," said Dot, "remember the story about the tunnelling archaeologist adventurer who got trapped in that room in the cave? How did she get out?" Dibbin thought. "She put her hand under the door and pulled up," he said. So Dot put her weight against the trap so it wouldn't move, and inside Dibbin got his little claws under the trap and lifted until he saw a shard of light. He whipped his tail under the crack to stop it from falling, and together they pulled up and up and up until suddenly Dibbin was free. Moments later, Miss Kelvingrove walked round the corner into the corridor and saw her trap on the floor, but it was empty. Later that night, Dibbin and Dot felt sad. "Somebody was trying to catch us. They were trying to catch us," said Dot. "I know," said Dibbin. "It means we're not welcome here anymore." "But this is our home," said Dot. "This is where we live. What have we done?" "I don't know," said Dibbin. "But from now on, we're going to have to be extra careful." 3 days later, a group of children had come into the library to sit on the rugs and be told an exciting story by Miss Kelvingrove. There was juice and lemon cakes, and the story was about an adventure to the moon. But the children weren't the only ones listening to Miss Kelvingrove's story. Under one of the shelves, so were Dibbin and Dot. "And then the space adventurers, they landed on the moon," said Miss Kelvingrove. "And they built a house out of wood." Dot sniffed. "You can't build a house out of wood on the moon," she said. "There's no gravity. It would just float away." "You can't build a house out of wood on the moon," she called, but her voice was so squeaky and tiny that nobody heard her. Dibbin had an idea. He'd become so interested in electricity that he'd taught himself how to build a microphone, which made your voice very loud indeed. "Here, try this," he said to Dot, pulling the lead and microphone from under the bookcase and handing it to her. "I said you can't build a house out of wood on the moon," Dot boomed. Everyone turned to look. Miss Kelvingrove turned to look. "You're the mice who have been eating my books," she said. "Oh, wait," said Athena, one of the children. Please, Miss Kelvingrove, they seem like very clever mice. Perhaps we should listen to them." Rather nervously, Dot kept hold of the microphone and told the whole class about gravity and how you can float around in space and how you can do somersaults in the air for as long as you like. And then Dibbin took the microphone and he told the whole class and Miss Kelvingrove about how a spaceship needs lots and lots and lots of energy to leave the Earth, but very little energy to float around in space, because there's no gravity. They were the cleverest mice anybody had ever heard, and soon people from all over Horsmarlonapol were flocking to the library to listen to Dibbin and Dot teach their own classes. And not only did Miss Kelvingrove learn to love them as friends, and not only did she offer them a safe and secure place in her library for the rest of their lives, Dibbin never ever ate another corner of Miss Kelvingrove's books again. And why? Well, that was Athena's idea, because every time she listened to Dibbin and Dot teach a class, she left them a big piece of her lemon cake. Sweet night.